Welcome, friends, family, and other creatures of the sea, to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the Protoss player in the red, the captain. It's Harstem. Up against one of the oldest names in the game, the Zerg in the blue, it's Sue. A best-of-3 Protoss versus Zerg, which Harstem humbly described as the best game no one saw. A recent video. Now, before we go any further, it'd be awesome if you could prove you're not no one by smashing that like button, and if you haven't made it there yet, subscribing. And Jimmy, what are we? 1,346 likes on this video, on this cast, on this illegal series. And I'll cast another one, and I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get a little bit better. Now, to be fair to the captain, what I believe he meant, and I'm certain he meant, was this series was actually played so early on in the $100,000 ESL Spring tournament at Dallas that there was no one casting it. So, until Harstem himself made a video, and now we're here working off of that, no one actually saw this series, which it's interesting when pro players who are almost painfully humble, even Dark, who will put up a show, still clearly has those moments of like, I could have played better. So when a pro player like Harstem, and I'll tell you, making those videos that are like, this is the best series ever, this is the most busted cheese, this is the most broken build, hurts a little inside. Even casting them and putting those clickbait titles, which unfortunately work, hurts a little inside. So for Harstem to make a video saying this is the best game that no one saw, and I think probably not so, and not tongue-in-cheek, I have high expectations, because no one knows how to judge games better, really, than those who suffered through them. So, starting things off, Harstem has developed an incredibly pragmatic and well thought out Protoss versus Zerg style, where I think if he survives to the 7 or 8 minute mark without taking critical damage, okay, that's underselling it. Maybe towards Hive Tech from Zerg. If he can survive and get 70 probes, 4 basic, get all the tools together, it becomes very difficult to beat. And that's just not your generic Protoss deathball, but a commitment to building the right army composition and controlling it perfectly. Sue, on the other hand, from the relatively rare games I've seen from him recently, is much more of a quantity over quality sort of player. And that's what he's always been, ever since Wings of Liberty. Sure, he had late game options, and always have that Broodlord Infestor style in your wheelhouse, but at the end of the day, Zerg players want to build Lings, lists, and then refill with the exact same thing if possible. That's not necessarily a condemnation. It's just really plays into the fantasy of Zerg, if you would. Just check my Dronely fans. 4th base, though, taken out by a clutch of Blink Stalkers from Harstem, controlling the pace of the game already. And the Queens and Lings. Was there an attempt at a counterattack? Not really. There's just not that many units here from Sue, as the Queens are pulled to the front lines. Pulls back the ones with energy. Stalker's not particularly great against the Queens, but once they run out of energy, then things get a lot dicey. Sue will be able to put together enough units to defend, but it's already a bit of an awkward situation, considering Harstem has an equal amount of workers, is working towards +1 in charge, though Sue has +1 ranged attack. Roach speed is done now, as well as Groovy Spines, the Hydra range upgrade, though no Hydras on the field yet. Sue with plenty of money in the bank, a bit supply block there, the Hydras. Storm already on the way for Harstem, as he's working his way towards the next phase of the unit composition. The Blink Stalkers control the field for as long as they can, and then, ideally, you move into splash damage, or at least a much stronger core composition of Immortals and or Archons later on. Occasionally we see Colossi, but they're more of a rare sight. High Templar with Storm. And now Sue, looking for that timing. Just now started Infestation Pit, which means Hive Tech is a long way off, but that's a lot of units bearing down on Harstem's base. Storm is almost perfectly timed out. That Oracle, ooh, almost loses both. We'll always want at least one Oracle. More Oracles would be better, but one will have to suffice. Defenses coming online. Fourth base for Harstem, nearly done. Sends out a couple charge lots. Down goes the Oracle, gets one last revelation. Changeling is taken out. Another robo completes. That's the second one. First robo's in the natural. Few charge lots head around the north side. 69 workers apiece, and now it's time for a nice fight. Lurker Den starts for Sue. Starting to realize, I think he spotted the Templar. Though the storms soften up, force fields are good. Charge lots working on that northern base, and now Sue has some hard decisions to make. How much does he send back? Forced to cancel the base. He doesn't really have the economy to work through this. He doesn't have the economy to come back with half his units and then fight with the other half and replace them. Right now, Harstem has stopped the fight before it started. The storm being done with Immortals already on the way, this Roach Hydra composition just does not cut it against the much more advanced Protoss. Harstem has invested almost double the Vespene gas here in the army composition. And Immortals, Archons, and Templar are, well, pretty much everything you need to deal with the Roach Hydra. There's already +1 air weapons on the way, which means it's not the least bit surprising to see the fleet beacon being called in at the back of the base. The beacon is lit, and we'll have to see what flavor of Stargate unit will be joining the field. But Harstem not sitting idly by, trying to keep control of the situation, moving out with how many Immortals? 7 Immortals. Zealots driven back, but a wall of gateways and another round of Zealot reinforcements will help out. Your Immortals continue production. Both players maxed out 10 minutes despite the exchanges. Now, will it be Tempests or will it be Carriers out of Harstem? Tempests are a much more direct response to the Lurkers, but if you have enough space, Carriers are much more of a wing condition, because Tempests can be hard countered by Corruptors, and they're not particularly great against Hydras. But they are a much more reliable method at dealing with Lurkers, because Interceptors are finicky creatures. The Golden Swarm really needs enough put together, so we'll see as Harstem looks to trade out some of those Zealots in order to free up supply for his army. He only has 72 probes, which is just enough to maximize his economy without investing too much. This Overlord is still here on the Pervert Pillar, and if Sue's looking closely, he'll see the Cybercore actually upgrading, which at this stage can only mean one thing. He's reverting his Warp Gate No. Oh, double Spire from Sue. He realizes what's happening. I think he noticed. Well, one, the fact that Harstem isn't actively trying to kill him, and two, he may have noticed the Cybercore upgrading, which means the Carriers and/or the Tempests are on the way. Charge lots to the north, to the west, and up the center. And, Sue able to deal with all of them, but time is being bought for the low, low price of maybe a dozen Zealots, which Harstem didn't really want much of anyways, as he needs that supply for Carriers. Mothership's on the way. Sue now banking up a whole lot of money, though. He's been mining pretty comfortably, despite the drone losses. Harstem is directly trading his Zealots for time to get that composition together. But now his Templar have built energy for several minutes now. Several Templar already maxed out. Multiple storms apiece. There's not even a hint of a Viper out of Sue. He's just working on the double Spire. In fact, the only energy bars are on the Overseers and the Queens right now, which doesn't really give you a lot of options for late-game finesse. And means he's going to lean much more into the brute force. Unfortunately, there's no more brute force on the ground than the Immortals. You're able to bash through the Roaches. Greater Spire on the way. And +1 flyer attack. Baneling Nest. as we fill in all the upgrades. Mothership is nearly complete for Harstem. Another vanguard of cannons coming online. Templar warped in. We go for Archons. Indeed he does. He has full energy. No! Oh my god, I went to 4 years of Templar school only to get eviscerated by Lurker Spines. Harstem! Oh, that's the difference between book smart and spine smart there. Well, those were heavy losses. Those Templar have been cooking since pretty much the Templar archives completed. And their first contact with the enemy is their absolute last. Wow. That is actually quite a rough situation for Harstem, as now Sue feeling like he has the army to move along and deny the base to the south. But active cloaking, there's no overseers here. The lurkers realize force fields trap some of them in. Archons clear them up. And stop right there, criminal scum. Trap some more. He actually burrows, but there's an observer here because one of these players broke detection. And now 2 Vipers and 16 Corruptors, as Sue is looking to deal with this army head on. And if he can't, abduct it to somewhere he can. Neural Parasite on the way. Almost a desperate spree of upgrades enter the production tab, as Sue realizes he needs to tech up hard and fast. Multiple spores on the way, but Harstem has been putting together the probes and the High Templar, which actually does less DPS than probes. Possibly the only unit in the game. All combining will eventually take out the... I don't know if the attack upgrades make the High Templar have more DPS, but they attack slower and have less damage baseline, so not really important right now. What's important are the carriers fighting in, the queens. Why does nobody ever get Corruptors until it's almost too late? Karen, can we just not do this in game 1? I don't... Massive fight as the Corruptors almost able to pick off a carrier. Okay, not even one. But a lot of interceptors taken out. Those aren't free, but they're a lot cheaper than having to replace the carrier itself, so... 7 Broodlords on the way. Sue could build more. He has 19 Corruptors and 7 Broodlords. Templar still underneath. 6 of them in total. 5 with the army. Revelation. Infestors on the way. Infestor Broodlord. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Not quite as strong as it once was. Actually, in many ways, significantly weaker. The infestors do less damage. They don't have infested Terrans, and I had one more thing to add on to that, and I completely lost it. But the Broodlords have significantly less range, though they move faster. So, a lot harder for the Broodlords to pick off the Templar before they're in position to storm the Corruptors. And then, really, in order to do maximum damage, you kind of have to do a suicide dive with the Corruptors. You want to parasitic bomb the carriers, and then dive onto the carriers with the Corruptors. So storms and interceptors are caught in parasitic bomb. Essentially trying to force the Protoss to either kill their own units or wipe out the interceptor so you can clean them up later. But the Golden Swarm has been unleashed. We'll see if Sue has the response to it. That's a lot of infestors. He could start fungling the interceptors. The spores are zoning for now. There's no way to target them directly, just by either incidental damage like the parasitic bomb and the storm, or by making sure nothing else is in range for your units to target. Now Tempest on the way as Harstem needs something a bit more direct. He's got 7 carriers in the composition. Just enough to be an existential threat without overcommitting to something that could get wiped out of the sky by the Corruptors. But another Sporchard is coming up. The Spore Crawler count continues to grow dramatically. Harstem now with more minerals in the bank, but not quite as much gas. The losses are relatively minimal for both sides so far. A single stalker blinks in. Sacrifice. Oh, beautiful feedbacks by Harstem. Some revenge for earlier. Storm onto the broods. The broodlings! Ah! They really wanted it. But the laws of StarCraft physics dragged them back. You can do some weird manipulation with the broodlings where they essentially go off the leash. But that was the very edge of the range there. And now, a single lurker. I like the exploratory stalker blinking in to die, but still. Giving away how many lurkers there are to deal with. And dismantling the single lurker defense. Harstem just obliterates all the spore crawlers. He works through the hatch. And the corruptors are coming back. They're revealed as well. A positioning mistake that Harstem is quickly going to take advantage of. He saw that the broodlords and the corruptors were moving out of position. He knows he has an opportunity here. There's a single Viper. Where's the Oracle? Doesn't have energy right now. Sue struggling to keep up with the late game army. The Tempests are being added in as well, which is not going to make things any easier for Sue here. The Immortal Archon battle group regrouping towards the center, though I don't think it's going to join up with the main army. These units are so dangerous, even in small numbers. And the problem with Sue's army is he has 20 Zerglings and 5 Roaches. He can't very well split up his broodlords without risking getting overrun by the carriers. And there's not enough ground army to deal with even a handful of Immortals and Archons. It'll easily get pummeled by those units without the broodlords there. So Sue has to ideally split. Yep, there we are. A couple broodlords off to deal with the Immortals. Meanwhile, Harstem grabs the position on the high ground. Rains down. In fact, all the infestors are committed here. Is there an observer? There isn't. So these will be whittled down and forced away. 9 more corruptors. Harstem still has the mothership. Has kept it intact. But he's got such a command. I think this is, again, from facing like Cyril and... Is he actually doing this? He's doing a forward nexus! And that has to be for shield battery overcharge. And quick warp. Who needs a warp prism when you could build a nexus which doesn't cost any supply and, believe it or not, has way more HP? I don't think this one will survive. But Harstem with his aggressive nexus strategy, so this really, Sue will not abide by this. That's just offensive. Literally and figuratively. Changeling salutes the Immortals as they come by, which will give away this whole attack. Let's see if Harstem... He rebuilds the forward nexus. So the benefits of the nexus are super pylons for warping in quickly without being tied to a warp prism, as well as the ability to shield battery overcharge. Technically, you also have recall, if you would like to recall there, which is certainly something. Also, it acts as almost bait, because you see someone building a nexus outside. Like, that's not an orbital command. It's not a planetary. All right. It has minimal practical usage, but Harstem has found the niche scenario where it very well might be the play. Now, we just, at this point, if it works, it looks like a genius move. If it doesn't work, at least it was good clickbait, so that's a win. The Immortals blasting Roaches, but Roaches doing what they do best, which is not dying and being annoying constantly. Aptly named. Wow. So, okay. So a wall of shield batteries and cannons. Now, I'm not exactly sure how Sue dislodges this. There are 32 corruptors right now. a single Viper, 8 Infestors, half the Lurkers are burrowed, 4 more Overseers on the way, but Shield Battery overcharge. Sue just can't get out. He has no way to really move out right now. His army is so heavily invested in Corruptor Broodlord. He has no real potential to counterattack or drag Harstem out of position. We're just gonna brawl it out. Sue has way more army supply. There's some Neural Parasite. Huge moves. Tempests are a great counter to Tempest. Feedback Storm. Turns it around on a couple of them. Tries to target fire the Infestors, but the Broodlords and Corruptors make it difficult. More great feedbacks out of Harstem. Shield Battery overcharge from the Super Nexus. It will be exhausted, but there's a half dozen, even more than that, batteries in the background. And Sue is barely stemming the tide here. The batteries still have energy. The Corruptor count is almost high enough to one-shot. I think it's high enough to one-shot carriers, which invalidates the shield batteries to an extent. But Harstem, he only has 9 gateways, so he can't do massive warp-ins, and he found the only pylon that isn't a super pylon here, which is making things remarkably difficult. Sue's brute force approach may be enough to deal with Harstem's theory crafting here, as Sue still has money in the bank. He's making another round of Broodlords. Harstem doesn't have enough gates. He can't rebuild the ground army fast enough to take advantage of the gap created. I think that's the big lacking part. Maybe needs a little more Zerg inspiration. But Sue, the blinking in with the Stalker to drag out the Lurker shots as well as scouting the numbers. I love the little moves. And also the charge lots here. Oh my, what a crazy move. Broodlords will defend the base, but the gas is already gone. The minerals are not too far off. Sue is running out of bases. Where is Sue gonna expand? Harstem has annexed the bottom left corner of the map by not just to support his army, but now there's a bunch of shield batteries protecting these cannons like it's a... This looks like Zerg Wars. This is how you set up your base in Zerg Wars. It's an arcade mission. There's so many cannons. 28 cannons on the map. 19 shield batteries. Harstem, is it time for a recall? I don't have any idea how well a recall will go to this Nexus, as there's so much space taken up by buildings. Or he could just walk back. The Broodlord count is so damn high, though. 13 Broodlords with maximum upgrades. Sue doesn't have any Carapace upgrades, which sounds about accurate for Sue. Lurkers are piling into the fight. Only one of them's able to burrow in time. Broodlords over the top of the Stalkers. Infestors giving the Stalkers a back massage while the Stalkers shoot up. There's also a Queen here. It can't transfuse because it's on the one spot with no creep. And I think Harstem just won the fight. Though winning is a bit of a strong term for what happened here. He comes out ahead in this brawl. He's the one who survives with the most units and the better position on the map. But it was by no means a decisive victory. At the end of the day, though, the problem is that Harstem can rebuild. He has the economy, he has the bases, he has the workers. So Sue will get one more army before Harstem, who's building 5... Harstem has 5 Stargates and only 9 Normie Gates, as I called them once and never again. He's building almost as much supply in Tempest as he can warp in Zealots, maybe more. So the Stalkers will kill another base. Fungal will lock him down a little bit longer. And Sue trying to fight it out, but he's down to less workers than he started with as the Zealots chew through the final mineral line. And he's just bleeding out. Here comes the army. Such as it is, the Broodlords. But the Tempest count is ridiculous. We don't see it. He has 6 Tempests. How many Corruptors are left? 10. And they don't have full HP. The Tempests have 313 upgrades. The Tempests alone may be too much, even with the Corruptors. All he has to do is kill a couple of them. The Tempests will overrun the rest. The Storms are looking good. And the Infestors are not going to be enough. Hydras and Lurkers. And again, Harstem with his aggressive Nexus, which I'm not sure paid off, but was certainly entertaining. And his focus on late-game army composition. Sue still almost cut through all of it. If he was a little bit better at defending those bases and was able to keep just a bit more economy intact, maybe we're looking at a different ending here, but Harstem is able to finally lock it down. Another almost surgically played game out of the captain, leading his forces to victory, but Sue, with his headstrong style, still something to contend with. I think Harstem is used to dealing with players who are going to try to match him. Like, play that late game very technically, with Infestors and Vipers, whereas Sue just came in like a wrecking ball. Sure, he had Infestors and Vipers, but it didn't seem like there was too much of a focus on him. So two very different styles at play here. But Harstem gets the better end of it in game number 1. Jimmy. Ocean Boy. Game 2. Goes for... well, continues the block. Harstem was able to force Sue away from his Natchery. Actually completes the shade. Queen. Unhappy about it. Doesn't quite kill a drone. Zergling will sneak by. Get a scout. Unlikely to kill a probe. Couple of depths together still. The Queens will shut it down. Two Queens on the way. Just adding more and more. Enough Zerglings with speed to be a threat to the third base as it comes up. Oracle out on the field though. And immediately turns around to protect the Adepts, lights it up. So burns through some of that energy, but overall whittles down the Zergling count to manageable numbers.
Dimensional strength attuned.
Queen's very strongly disagreeing with the Oracle's presence here in Game 2. Not able to get anything, as obviously it was prepared for. Now, what's next? 2 gases at 420. As he blazes a path through the tech tree, Forge, and Twilight. And Twilight. Oh, he's micro. Okay. 3 kills. Another Oracle comes in. The Oracles pick up 3 kills in total. And that's when... what? A Robo. And also a Twilight. So, a bit distracted by the Oracles, but... a different flavor from Harstem this time around. It's not going to be the blink pressure timing. In fact, it's angling much more towards the charge lots. Maybe with some Archons mixed in. As that Robo indicates either an interest in early attack with the Warp Prism and or Immortals, or a full turtle strategy. But I have a feeling we're going to see charge lots. There we are. Oh, the Shady Bunch coming across. Early mid-game Adept pressure combined with the Oracles and the Queens caught off guard. A transfuse, but they're on the run. And another queen will go down. The Shade's in towards the main, cancels him at the last second. The threat of the Adepts is as good or better than the Adepts themselves right now, as he doesn't have glaives on the way, has no interest in actually committing these units, but needs to keep Sue at home while he's building up to that army composition, which is going to be the Twilight with the charge lots, and now the Templar Archives, and 2 more gases at the 3rd base. And he's forced enough units out of Sue, and Harstem just has a pretty comfortable position economically. Only now did Sue catch up in the drone count, and he's just now finished with the lair. The Adepts on the run! The Zerglings! Where are the Oracles? On the other side of the map. A couple Adepts get caught. Sue splits off just enough ling. Ooh. He's going for it again. +1 melee about to complete, but Harstem forced back. Double Hydra Den. Is this intentional? They're built at almost the same time. So I want to say yes, though it feels like if you're going to go double Hydra Den timing, which is incredibly rare, by the way, because the upgrades are so fast anyways. But if you're going to go double Hydra Den, you just build them right next to each other. Did he cancel one? No, it finished. All right, moment of truth. He's got plenty of money in the bank. And he gets both upgrades. Now, did he decide on that after noticing he had 2 Hydra Dens? Or was that the plan all along? You know what? We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And say, interesting timing. Though, without a Baneling nest, 10 Hydras on the way are good, but he's still building drones, so. A decoy Hydra Den. And it is one of my pet peeves. This time not for the players, but for the comments like, oh my god, he built 1 extra upgrade building, or 1 extra Hydra. It's barely, it's less than 2 Hydras in cost. All right, I think he'll manage. He has enough money. He could build 4 more Hydra Dens. That would be pushing it. 4 Hydra Dens would be pushing it. I'll agree to that. Archons. Templar with Storm already ready. Completed. There. Better. Another wave of charge lots warped in. Infestation Pit. Pursue. A bit on the later side of things, but that seems to be the trend. Creep spread looking real good. As Harstem, without the Blink Stalkers, didn't really have an opportunity to drive it back or keep Sue at bay. So now we're going to see kind of the full power of the Zerg without being contained early. Sue has an opportunity to really send wave after wave, slowly drifting across with the Hydra Ling Bane. Baneling speed is about to complete as well, but the charge lots able to isolate, and stasis will mitigate a whole bunch of the Zerglings as well. So +2 melee as well as Baneling speed coming together. Zerglings revelated, but it's pretty clear where they are based on the Zealot dying. Another stasis, but that's going to trigger on the yeah. I couldn't tell if he was trying to just perma-lock them in, which would be quite a cute move. I wouldn't put it past him, but very hard to time that, as if they're not out of stasis, it'll just trigger again and do nothing. It doesn't refresh the stasis, unfortunately. So, but here comes the Hydras, the Lings, the Banes, a single Adept in the wall calling desperately for help, and the Stalkers will answer. The Storms to ward away the Banes from the mineral line. Harstem holds the first line. Force field at the ramp. Stasis gets triggered by a single Ling. Storms wash over the field, adding more to the water. And the Templar will hold, and Sue loses so much. Beautiful storms from Harstem throughout the entire field. And he knocks Sue down 60 supply while only losing 10 or 20 of his own. Yeah, an incredible fight from Harstem. He had the units, but just because you have the right units doesn't mean you're always going to be able to use them. Harstem does a great job with them for now, but a few Zerglings get through the gateway that was already softened up. Now Banelings over to the right flank. Harstem distracted by the Lings. A brave zealot dives onto the mains, but another wave is coming in from Sue. Warp Prism is done. Mothership is on the way from Harstem. +2 ground weapons completed. Sue, holding it together. A coherent attack still. Lights up the oracles, but 2 of them get knocked out of the sky by the Hydras, and the Zerglings will overrun the rest on the ground. Force fields are good, but are they enough? More banelings coming in. Sue is at 87 drones. He's getting a greater spire. +3 melee, +2 ranged attack. Adrenal gland's about to complete. And no damage on his side to really slow him down. The only thing he's lacking in right now is larva. And he's building 7 corruptors, which with a greater spire on the way means brood lords can be on the agenda if he has nothing to shoot down. But Harstem is already working on the carriers and the mothership. The Zealots charge in towards the natural. The unused Roach Warren standing by. More Corruptors on the way. But Harstem has held on to 4 bases, and now he's building that Death Ball composition. The mothership has arrived, as have the carriers. So many banelings. Pursue. Hydras and Lings. You can tell this unit composition is much more what he wants to have. Ultralisk Cavern has begun production. Harstem still with quite a death ball. Not really a death ball, but just a very strong army that requires meticulous control to keep alive, but can punch well above its weight class, even considering the size of your mothership here. Harstem's army is almost double the gas, while being 2,000 less minerals. It's so technical and expensive to replace. Sue, on the other hand, has claimed most of the map. The creep extends about 70% of the way across. Chitinous plating is on the way for the Ultras. Active cloaking for the mothership. Are there even any overseers? There are 3 overseers on the field. Overlord Speed should be joining production momentarily, as those overseers simply aren't fast enough. Carapace. Sue is researching armor upgrades. Oh, it's a cold day in hell indeed. And I'm not talking about the Ultralisk armor, but he's acknowledging that surviving more attacks might be a good idea. But here come the Banelings. Force fields. And the Banelings trickle in. Mothership goes down. Enough Banelings came in from the flank. A tough fight for Sue, but tougher for Harstem, considering he's only halfway across the map. I don't think he can go any further. The Warp Prism here to reinforce 13 gates this time around. He's gonna clear up the creep, but Sue, Harstem trying to take a 4th. It's entirely 5th rather, entirely coated by creep. Sue has been quite efficient in filling in the map with the broad strokes of creep tumors. The storms stem the tide yet again, but the Immortals starting to crumble. Down goes another carrier. The Hydra softened up. Carrier will fall. And Overseer, or Observers taken out. The help of the Overseers. Overlord Speed about to complete. Another Observer taken out. Harstem still with money in the bank, but Ultras quite efficient at cleaning up small amounts of Zealots. A strong choice in this specific scenario now that he's been able to take down several Immortals. Harstem's been working off only 1 Robo. He's going to add 2 more, but the Immortal count has been whittled down, and Harstem doesn't really have the economy to rebuild his tech quickly. The main base is mining out. The gas, 20, 158, that'll be gone within the minute. And Sue is still sitting on 6 or so bases of comfortable economy. The storms and the Banelings combine. The harmless workers are caught in the crossfire, and 11 are annihilated. Harstem still has 72 probes, but he has to take another base, otherwise he can't use them. A single Phoenix. That's a real one. The only Phoenix. The last Phoenix. Will be taken down. As Harstem finally clears up the creep, but the probes knocked off. And another 11 probes taken down. Harstem getting desperate. He didn't quite maintain the speed at which he needs to expand. He's been relying on the strength of his unit composition, but Sue, he doesn't have that much in the bank. He does have ultras, but you come in from the wrong angle. And those ultras can be made to look, well, more like mineral laundering than an actual useful part of the composition. But Sue is setting up these flanks well. Harstem is trying to maintain as much army supply as possible. He actually has a little more than Sue right now. 113 to 112. Plus 3 attack, plus 1 shields. Only plus 3, plus 1 for Sue as well. The observer gets taken out. There's no more detection. He's deep onto the creep. Oh no, Susan! You're flying! Oh. Meanwhile, Harstem has the mothership. He has to hold this base. He's been so focused on maintaining the army composition. But he'll be left in the same position Sue was if he doesn't hold on to this base, where he has a good army, but he just can't replace it, and eventually it gets whittled down to nothing. But there you go. 9 Immortals, 9 High Templar, 4 Archons, a smattering of gateway units, a single valuable sentry. Meanwhile, Sue, 8 Ultralists. He's throwing some Broodlords into the mix. Has still 7 Queens, whatever Hydras that survived, and of course Lingbane. Charge lots. Broodlords are revealed. Not that Harstem can do much right now about it. He clearly has the fleet beacon. He has +2 air weapons done as well, but 8 drones taken down. Sue with plenty of money in the bank. Harstem has managed to build the, he almost can't fit it all under the cloak. But the Queens, the ultimate late-game spellcaster and early-game spellcaster and just general-purpose spellcaster, will be marching. And the Broodlords, the Ultras, and the Queens, by their powers combined, Harstem's base in trouble, but the base will die, as will the entire economy, which means Harstem has to win right here and right now. The Queen's taking the brunt of it. He uses the active cloak, and there's no detection! How does this happen? He can't see it, he can't kill it! And again, Harstem! Sue ran out of overseers. And suddenly Harstem wins the fight. He slaughters the Broodlords, but Sue puts 100 Zerglings into the production tab. And I think if he had more larvae, yes, he would make more. 112 Zerglings up against Archons and Templar and Immortals. Is that enough? Well, he's adding in some Banelings, more Ultras. Wave after wave will crash against this. But Harstem takes out 30-40 Zerglings with a single storm. But there's more where that came from. The Ultras aren't dying instantly. They're making him pay a price. And the Templar are trying to retreat back. He obliterates another wave. Harstem continues to power through. 6-8 Ultras in production. 28 Zerglings. But Sue is running out of money. Harstem has the right army to deal with it. But he doesn't have the economy to build any more. He still has Templar with energy. They've held on to it this entire time. He's going for the Ultra Cavern. Honestly, I think you just let him keep building Ultras. Don't target the cavern. But at this stage, Harstem finishes +2 armor. Which, now Sue is actually supply blocked at 162 over 160. Which means Harstem's army supply is comparable. He's playing almost a campaign mission now. He can't rebuild any units. He just has to try to win with what he has. But another Ultra. Almost taken out, taking the wrong path. A single Dark Templar. Ah, it's one of those missions. I kind of hated those ones in Wings of Liberty, but still. One single Dark Templar. Detection. What? What? Oh, he's shift-clicked on the wrong drones, and he's struggling to find them. And that actually reduces the effectiveness of the Dark Templar pretty dramatically here, but the Death Ball's still rolling. The Ultra's looking for a target. Sue, what have you done? 23 drones dead. Harstem has racked up the damage. And now, well, if neither player has any economy, Harstem's army is just better. The only thing that Sue had going for him was the ability to rebuild a dozen Ultras and 100 Zerglings. But those dried up pretty quick. Harstem doesn't even have enough to rebuild a Nexus right now. There are 11 Ultralisks on the field. Two Immortals. Harstem prioritized building more Immortals over building another Nexus. And I can't even disagree. As a Nexus is a hard target. Something that Sue can kill. But the Immortals are something that shoots back. And right now, I doubt Harstem's going to be able to finish a Nexus. Those Templar. He has 3 Templar, if you don't include the Dark Templar, which the High Templar usually don't, unless legally pressed to. Just building Immortals with what little minerals he has left. The drone, Sue! Oh no. 8 more drones, he's just gonna go for the base. And those Templar out in front. What kind of vision does Harstem have? He has the observers. Sue is winding up for a massive surround. Only 3 Stalkers over here. The Overseer almost kills it. The Dark Templar dying nearly incidentally. The Stalker's being chased down. As round and round we go. Sue really trying to escape from the freight train of an army that Harstem has. A Storm. Anything for a Templar. He doesn't get it. There's still 2 Storms on these Templar. The Storms have been devastating. 18 Banelings, 8 Hydras, 14 Lings, and Lisks. Or die trying. And it could go either way right now for Sue. He cancels everything at the base. More Overlords may die. Sue keeps losing drones. Finally takes out whatever it was to the left side. 14 more drones dead, and now, just like that, they're tied at 33. One more probe dies. Harstem doesn't know about the base in the top right corner. And Sue realizes that, cancels everything there, just in time to keep Harstem from... Harstem has 14 Immortals. His army is Immortals with anything else as a side dish here. 14 Immortals, 5 Archons, 3 High Templar, and a mothership. Harstem all about quality over quantity, whereas Sue is the exact opposite. He starts 4 Infestors. Immortals, Archons, Templar. Ultras. There are 35 Banelings. It's still... Well, the Infestors are a big deal. That's detection in a pinch. And, well, the pinch begins. The Storms. The Immortals caught on the front line. Where's the Time Warp? Immortals blasting through. But there's not a... The Ultras are too much. It just gets cleaned up. The full surround. And Harstem has nothing. He's wiped out immediately, and I need to see that again. It all happened so fast. Harstem has trundled around the map with an obscene amount of immortals this entire time. But Sue builds up as close to maxing out as he's going to get, whips a few infestors into the fray, locks the army down, and knocks it out. And it's the Banelings. The Banelings helping to crash through. The Immortals just can't focus. The Hydra's on the back line. The combined efforts of the Zerg. Harstem, I think, underestimated the sheer number of units Sue still had left. Sue threw away 650 lings, 130 Banelings, a dozen Ultras, but he holds. In the most painful fashion possible, but he holds. Wow. Another game, but this time Sue was the one keeping Harstem contained, as opposed to the other way around. Sue was able to lock it down, but that just shows how dangerous it is. It's not, it almost feels like a total role reversal, where historically, you wanted to keep the Zerg busy. You want to limit their bases. You want to limit their economy. Whereas here, if Harstem was allowed to get a 5th base, well, we'd be done. And I'd be doing the outro and begging you for likes and subscribes again. So I think it comes down to whether Sue can limit Harstem's economy, as he's clearly more adept, somewhat puns intended, at the late game as we go into Alcyone. But these two pretty evenly matched in very different ways. Wow. I didn't expect such an even series. Well, I think that's why Harstem himself, and again, I'll point out, no one knows how bad they are at StarCraft better than pro players. Okay? If you consult this chart, you'll know how good players are and how qualified they are to talk about the game. Now, just because they know what they're talking about doesn't mean that they're going to say they're good. They're going to see every little mistake. Like, why did I let 2 Zerglings in? Do I need to pull that many probes? Like, was the adept timing off? Is my probe production idle? Like, I lost a probe to a Zerg, 2 probes to a Zergling. That pretty much, if this was Cyril playing Protoss, he'd say this is game over and there's no chance of coming back. If you've ever watched his stream. Oracle comes in, gets 2 kills. The Queens? This is a message from the Hatchery Owners Association. Okay, Brenda, are you really doing this? Yes! We don't like your kind around here. And please, tell your friends not to come back. With all due respect. Bitch. Brenda. Zerglings try to come in. The Oracles get their obligatory handful of kills before City of the Quarter contemplating what they've done. And Harstem well on his way to getting that 3rd Nexus up and running. So, it's already been an exhausting experience in the best possible way. But, now what? It's gonna be Blink again. Harstem tried the Charge Lot style last time, but somewhat paradoxically, the Charge Lot style does not lend itself to controlling the map very well. It's a lot more all or nothing, is when you have to get up in your opponent's face and start smacking them with your lightsabers. It's a lot harder to kind of retreat from that fight than it is with Blink Stalkers. So when you go for the Charge Lot style, you have a stronger base army usually, but you don't have the flexibility that the Blink Stalkers provide to someone who's actually paying attention. So, well, we told you. Okay, Brenda. Okay. I told him. I think they're robots. That's not important. AI is everywhere. It's so annoying. Sorry. Now the Blink Stalkers coming across. Plenty of Blink. Sue with a very different response. He's not relying on the roaches. It's all about the Zerglings. Now, some roaches now being added in, but enough Zerglings. And +1 melee on the way. Making it much more dangerous. Even recalls out. Whole bunch of Zerglings at the back. Sue right now has 47 Zerglings, but only 54 drones, and is looking for all-out aggression. He's just now adding some more drones in, but he really wanted to catch those stalkers in the map, but Harstem was quick to recognize it and backs off with the recall. Another thing about the stalkers is they work well with friends. The charge lots are good in small to medium numbers, but you get too many and they start tripping over each other to get in on the action. Whereas stalkers can protect each other by physically blocking. Like, if you have enough stalkers, then some of the stalkers at the center are safe from the Zerglings. Whereas the charge lots are always spoiling for a fight. But of course, charge lots, a much more efficient unit later on. That's why we have charge on the way storm being added in. And that's a much quicker infestation pit from Sue than we've seen in any of the other games so far. 4th base canceled. Good reaction on Harstem, but good timing on Sue to take it out. Zerglings on the way. Again, trying to get in. The Stalker holding the door for now, but surprisingly inept at it. Actually takes it out. Oracle. Looking at the natural, spots it. And Hive begins. I'm... Okay. So I see the thought process from Sue here. I don't like it. Well, I don't necessarily agree from a practical standpoint, but from an emotional and a Zerg standpoint, I love it. He's like, well, the Ultras worked, and while technically, yes, they did. But did they, though? Like, could you call that a resounding victory for the Ultras? Or were they just the tools at hand? Well, we'll see. Either way, you gotta appreciate Sue sticking to his principles. But if you wanted to build the same units for 14 years straight, you probably should have picked Terran. Well, the rocks being opened up throughout the map. Sue. Unfortunately, the watchtower can't be opened up. But now we got Overlord speed is on the way, +2 melee. Double immortal production for Harstem. And he's got that army together. The Immortals, the Archons, the Templar, and Heap and Help and a Gateway units. Somewhere between a lathering and a serving size, which I don't know why we're using these food terms, as Protoss obviously can't appreciate them, as they don't have mouths. But if they did, they would scream, "Oh my God, that's so many Zerglings!" Wait, there's more in the production tab, and adrenal glands as well. And he's making his Spire great again. So it's going to be Broodlords. Now, Sue, tell me what you want. What you really, really want. I know what you want. What you really, really want. Ultras. Yes? I'm surprised we haven't seen the Ultra Cavern at all. Maybe he's trying to wean himself off it. He's just going straight for Massling Bane Broodlord. Well, we'll see. Meanwhile, Harstem, the beacon is lit. And the stargates are on the way. As another round of lings heads in towards the third. Both sides. Right, the least aggression so far is, I think, the tension is clearly mounting. They both have gotten... I think they've played each other so little. And they both play such different styles. What we're seeing is both players adapting mid-series. Like Harstem being a bit more tempered with his aggression because he knows Sue will build a lot of units. And Sue acknowledging Harstem's prowess with the late-game army and getting much... And there it is. And getting to late game much quicker himself. Harstem not being a hyper-aggressive timing Protoss like you'll see dominating the ladder and nowhere else, but instead, much more focused on the late game army. Here come the Banelings. In towards the third. Beautiful force field. Stalker's warped in, and somehow he holds. Only 4 probes lost in what could have been an economically devastating run by. The Banelings hitting the right timing, and while +2 melee attack is not the deadly option it once was, still that was more than enough Banes to take out most of the mineral line. Stalkers at the... Well, those are very dead. Those are very dead Stalkers. Sorry. He's freeing up supply for the carriers he can't afford. It's fine. Meanwhile, Archons, Immortals, High Templar, oh my, and Stasis behind. Harstem has all the tools on the table. Meanwhile, Sue... Oh, God, the charge... Here we go again. He has enough energy for another force field. Are we going into a base trade? Wait, what's happening right now? The Banelings are at the gates. The Zealots will be taken out. That might be enough to take out the Nexus. It's close. Uh-oh. Well, the force field will... Oh, my. Okay, it's not that close to taking out the Nexus. That was really dumb. But a dozen probes, on the other hand, are certainly nothing to scoff at. Stalkers split off to finish off the hatchery, left behind for the Zerglings to chew on, so the rest of the army can extract. Harstem backing off. Banelings rolling through. Not again. Oh, it's like Ice Baneling Escape, which is the worst. I hate that game so much. Oh, but there's no escape from the Banes as they close in 15! +3 Banelings, one-shot probes. All right, he's got +3 so quick. That is actually a remarkably quick +3 melee. I don't think Harstem was expecting another 20 probes. Obliterated. Just gone. He has enough Nexi to replace him, but Sue is making it work. I feel like Sue is doing the correct Zerg thing of adapting really well to Harstem. As he's still working in his style of relentless aggression. But he's finding damage. And that's the key to limiting this army composition. But here comes Harstem. He's got 13 Archons. More Archons than your body can handle. But 10 Broodlords are raining down. Harstem retreating faster than my hairline right now, and the Templar are forced away. There's no Tempest on the field. A single Templar bravely goes forward and will strongly discourage the Broodlords from moving any further with the storm. Harstem still has the bases intact. He might not have quite as many probes as he would like, but his army is still looking very good at this stage of the game. +3 ground attack. Now completed. Chitinous plating is done for the Ultras that don't yet exist, though I have a feeling that we'll be seeing them sooner rather than later. As Sue continues to control the map. Harstem with Tempest in production. A few Archons and a couple charge lots. Split off to the right flank. Broodlords. Both sides clearing up the rocks now. Archons are recalled out and gets 3 out of 4 out of there. But now there's not much left to retreat to. Tempest on the way. That is still 13 Archons, 6 Immortals, any amount of Tempest. Sue has a lot of money in the bank, but not so much he could just throw away endless army. Picking off these Archons is a great start, though. The Tempest coming in from the left side. There's no anti-air at all. He turned every single Corruptor into Broodlords. A classic mistake. And now the Stalkers will chase. The Tempests are already doing plenty of damage, taking out several Broods. The Queen's tying it together. The Storms wading through. And the Archons are still gliding across. Another wave of Broodlings may take out one more. But Harstem still has the army to beat. There's an Ultra in production. Sue remaxes. But he does, well, does he have what it takes to beat this army? The Templar. There's still some full energy Templar in the back. And the Tempest count is growing as the Broodlords start to be whittled down. The Corruptors finally come out, but Harstem's made it so far across the map. Another Broodlord targeted down. The Storms on the ramp as all of Sue's units are coming down in through the storm. And not many can survive the Maelstrom. The Tempest targeting the Broods from the back line. A single Immortal or a single Ultra comes in, but there's plenty of Immortals to deal with it. 10 Ultras? Okay, sure. Yes, why not? Yeah, no, okay, 12 Ultras. Yeah, one Ultra's not enough, Winter? All right, 12 maybe. That's certainly a choice. Of all the choices he could have made, that is one of them. Sue, with an absolutely obscene amount of Ultralisks. I don't know. I don't know, Kev. And I'm not talking to Harstem here, but it's ridiculous. More Ultras. He's just building Ultras. Harstem's just building Immortals. Immortals? It doesn't get too much harder of a counter here. But it's a numbers game. The Ultras and Zerglings. Probes eviscerated. The economy's gone for Harstem. We're base trading. Fall on. Here we go again. This didn't work out for Harstem last time. Will he learn from... honestly, I don't know if there were mistakes last time, but if he's going to recall, it has to be now. It's already happened. It's at the natural. He recalls behind the mineral line, manages to get tucked in, and the Immortals are forced to retreat. His third base, he may be able to save it. The Zerglings aren't targeting it. There's still some minerals. Harstem's down to 12 probes. Make that 11 as one was very bravely charging into battle. But the army gets caught. Hold on, who's catching who? We're all over the place right now. 32 drones and 37 probes dead. And that's not going to be the end of it. They will never financially recover from this. The production tab is almost irrelevant now. Whatever bank Sue had is gone, as building dozens of Ultras has a tendency to drain it quite quickly. He still has 10 Ultralisks on the field. And the Lings are coming down, but the Archons can help thin out the Lings, and then the Immortals can blast apart the Ultras. But it's a numbers game. The Ultras are closing in. The last Archon is ripped apart. But the Immortals are outnumbering the Ultras now, and you can really see the effects of that. Sue, it 50 to 63 supply. Where did this Archon come from? Another Archon and a couple Zealots on the way across the field. +3, +2 for Sue. +3 attack and +1 shields for Harstem. That Archon, those Archons must live. They're the most important units in the game right now. The Immortals are no longer nearly as important. The Archons are the way to stop the Zerglings. The Immortals will cut through the Ultras easily. And down under 50 supply, and neither player can rebuild. Sue is technically mining from this base. Not for long, as the Immortals bash their way through. But Sue, look at the Sue fly. Oh no! Ultras, the Zealots take out a base, and Harstem even retreats from the Broodlings. It's a disaster for Sue. If Harstem can keep... Oh my god, the caustic spray. He's gonna try to take out the nexus. Sue's army is 22 Zerglings. And 4 Corruptors. The thing is, those 22 Zerglings could win this fight. Those Archons don't have enough shields. He needs to pick the fight with Broodlings. The Greater Spire will die, but that's a terrible position. The drones, the Archons are boxed in by the Immortals. Body blocking for the most important units. The Archon, 16 kills. 58 kills on this Archon. Is that enough? Sue is building 6 Zerglings. He's surviving off Broodlings. The Corruptors can't do anything. 60 kill Archon. This is a cinematic. It's even better. I'm pretty sure that Archon couldn't even kill it ultra reliably. It also died. The last Zerglings onto the Immortals. The drones are fighting, but a couple more Zealots into the fray. He kills the Immortal. But that's it. GG. Harstem wins. And, well, I think more accurately, Harstem survives. Another onslaught from Sue, who a remarkable commitment to the Ultras, the Zerglings, the Brood Lords, not building a single Infestor or Viper. He sticks to his principles, and he dies with them, as Harstem holds the line, if only just, with the Immortals and the Archons. Most importantly, the Archons. Well, I will say, Harstem chose well. He knows. I'm sure if you told him to break down where the mistakes were made and what he could have done better, he comes up with 500 different things on both sides. But he also knows what makes up some entertaining games, and I agree. I hope it made your day a little bit better. Thank you to Harstem. And if Jimmy remembers, Harstem's video on, I believe it was that game, but I'm not 100%, in the description, alongside the second channel, if you haven't checked out yet, for streaming, more content, all that, Winter Gaming here on YouTube. But either way, if you got the means of motivation, you also check out Patreon, YouTube membership, but I hear liking and subscribing is still free, for now. But thank you for watching. Hopefully made your day a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.